I wanted to take a couple of minutes and share something that I see is really discouraging to me. Not that it can't be overcome, but I think a lot of people have this problem. They don't know how to recognize the signs that their company is not on track or drifting. And obviously that starts with leadership. And so that's what I'm going to talk about there from a leader's perspective, from a CEO's perspective. How do you recognize that your company, your team is not performing as it could? There are three things that I come across pretty regularly that are telltale signs of drift. And the first one is that the whole company, or you as the leader, just yourself, you're always reacting and you're never able to plan. Now, this doesn't mean that you take extensive amount of time every week or every day to plan. There are a ton of different ways that you can do planning rhythms. But if you don't ever have time to plan ahead and you're always reacting, whether it's customer service emails or it's your employees don't know what to do with their time or whatever it is, if you're never able to actually set out and say, all right, let's plan ahead for this next season. It could be you never get to do the financial forecasting that you want. That could be that you're not able to do succession planning for your key stakeholder team members. Whatever it is, if you're not able to plan ahead, your company is drifting and it could be in danger of big problems. Why is it important to be able to plan ahead? I come across this question all the time. And what I want to start by saying, it's not because you're going to ever be able to plan perfectly. Planning ahead is at least taking a stab at what would it be like if we could control the outcome in the future. Oftentimes you're not going to be able to control it completely. There are factors that you'll never be able to fully grasp hold of, and that's okay. But what you do need to be able to do is say, all right, I know the things that I can control, and let's control those. And a lot of that has to do with your mindset. It has to do with planning resources that can be planned, whether that's inventory or your team members or whatever it is, cash flow. Planning ahead is important. And if you're never able to do it, you'll never be able to get ahead of those dumpster fire questions and concerns and client calls that come in. Because those things will always be there. Those things will always be there. And if you don't carve out time to solve the questions that only you as a CEO can do, then it's really hard to maintain, let alone grow as a business. Number two sign that your company is in danger of drifting or being off the mark is that your team doesn't own their own work. I see this a lot with high-performing CEOs and top leadership teams that are very good at what they do. They're excellent at the financial piece of the business, or they're really good at marketing, or they're really intuitive in hires. But the problem is that they need to not be doing that anymore. As a CEO or as a C-suite leader, you need to not be in the day-to-day operations of your company if you want to grow and if you want to thrive. And so if you're out balancing the books yourself, if you're out, connecting social media accounts as the manager yourself, like that's just not what you should be doing. You should be working on plans ahead. Again, you need to be making sure that the things that are coming down stream, you know what they are, and you know how to plan ahead, and you know how to move resources where they're going to be. So the only way that you can do that is if your subordinates are able to own their own work and their component. And I see this as a really pivotal role also in your retaining important talent. If they don't know that they can take that ownership and that you want them to step up and to actually work in a more intuitive way, in a not work harder, but work in a more strategic way, work with an owner's mindset themselves, that is the sign of a positive employee, that your retention is going to be high. But if your team doesn't want to own their work, if they don't want to own the responsibility of failures when it happens, then those team members are probably not being led. they don't know why they're doing what they're doing, or they're not wanting to be a part of the team anymore. And either way, you're in a position of danger for your company. So that's number 2, is your team doesn't own the mark. Number 1 was always reacting, never planning. Number 3 is that your messaging as the company is really muddy. I'm really passionate about clear messaging because I think it saves the bacon of a lot of small businesses that otherwise no one would know about. But when you're very clear and you articulate, this is who we are, this is what we do, this is who we serve, and if you're not those people, then we're not going to bother about it, then it is difficult for your clients and your customers to find you. There are an infinite amount of tools and strategies that you can use in marketing, but none of them work well if you're not using clear words. So your messaging, you can tell if your customers know what you're talking about. Your employees are a really great way of knowing if your messaging is clear, because if you as the CEO, if you as the owner, the top leaders, if you go around and you start asking people, so what is the company about, and they don't know how to answer that, then there's no way that your customers know. So take a step back. Ask yourself this question too: do I know what the clear messaging of the company is? As the CEO, if you don't know what it is, then there's no way in the world that anyone else in the company knows. So if your employees don't know, there's no way your customers know. And if you don't know, there's no way your employees know. And so take a step back as the leader, as the top person, and say, listen, I own the responsibility for this. I need to make sure that my messaging is clear. And that is the first way you can start making money back and earning those profits, not just revenue in the year. So to bring it all back, it's important that you recognize these signs early. You can tell when you've stopped being able to plan ahead because things start to surprise you. You'll know that you're not planning if things start to surprise you. You'll know that your team doesn't own their work when you find out way after the fact that there was a big problem and no one brought you in. You'll also know that your messaging is muddy if your customers are unhappy with a specific kind of product, and it's not because the product is faulty, it's because they shouldn't have had the product in the first place. It wasn't meant for them. So take a step, maybe work these things with your leadership team, work them through with your top leaders, or your top performers in the company, and ask them, hey, are we planning enough? Ask them, does our team own their work? And ask them if they think their messaging is on point. Because if it's not, you're onto something here. So that's my challenge for you today. Ask these questions and start getting your days back, because clarity is probably closer than you think. You just need to get a few questions asked so that you can start working towards those legacies again that you want.